Hi everybody, it's MG 201. Actually, we're wrapping up week 3. It's hard to believe that we've come this far this quick, but we are at the end of approaching the end of week 3. So in the content for week 3, I supplied some information for some basic mind mapping. I have found that this to be a very valuable note-taking tool for concepts that I'm in the process of learning. So I thought I would share that with you all. It's something that I like to share with these classes that I teach here. Because some folks, especially if they're coming back into the academic world, or maybe they haven't had the training in a formal note-taking process, they do find that using mind maps and how the branches work and how you can hang things together quite effective. When I was taking some new classware about 8 or 9 years ago, I used to get the larger sheet of paper, the legal size, or even that 11 by 14, hold it sideways and do mind maps of the entire chapters of books. And, everybody was like, what has she got there? And I thought, this was a way for me to take entirely new concepts and content, hang everything off of each chapter. So basically at the end of every class, I had, 14 or 15 of these plat maps basically of the course's content by chapter. It became a very effective data collection tool for having to take exams and trying to remember new information that I was in a way of processing. I also, part of this topic is brainstorming in terms of how to make decisions and gather information. Brainstorming is a little bit of an art and a science. A lot of people get together with meetings and they say, hey, let's get together and talk about things openly and discuss. And then you find along the way that people get shot down or they don't feel comfortable to share their information because the facilitator of the session basically is curtailing open open thought and open dialogue. So you become an effective brainstorming facilitator in your organization, you'll probably be highly sought after because it is kind of a talent that you can bring to the table and ensure that everyone's input and ideas are getting on the board. If you follow effective brainstorming, what really happens is that bad ideas just don't get talked about anymore. They're never talked about. They're not said they're silly or stupid or whatever the case may be. They just don't get discussed. And what happens is that good ideas and ideas that kind of grow legs basically are the ones that keep on being talked about. And usually in a non-threatening, open environment. So if you have any opportunity to get some training in brainstorming or meeting facilitation, it can be very valuable in your career. One of the topics in this week's was organizational culture. So I hope that you all got a chance to look at the cultural iceberg graphic that I put into week 3's content, because how do organizational cultures get started? It's what the people bring to the organization. So if you have people who have a deep, rich attitude towards egalitarianism and cooperation and collaboration, you're going to get that. Now, where does that all start? It starts in our families and our home life and what we bring to it. So it's very important to understand that many of our cultural simulations with regards to our own personal backgrounds, we do bring to the workplace, and that helps to form a culture in a company. Now, that being said, information that you get from the top overlays from that. So your organizational management at the highest level, if you're working for a small company, it might be your owner's organizational style, their vision, the mission of the organization will all play into how the corporate culture evolves. So one of the things that sometimes employees struggle with along the way is whether or not they are a true cultural fit in an organization. If you have an organization that does not allow sharing, doesn't allow progression, is not accepted to innovation, and you are that type of person, you might find yourself in a struggle the entire time that you work for the organization. On the other hand, if you have a good match, kind of a marriage between what you bring to the table and what they have as a place to work, you can find yourself in a very, very productive and growth opportunity. So these are important and need to be thought through. And many times, many companies now are doing cultural fit So not only are they looking for skill set, they're looking for people who can embrace the organization's or culture and go from there. So I would strongly take a little bit of time, look at that diagram, and see if there's areas in your organization or even in yourself where you could do some different types of understanding of various cultural attributes along the way. And then I always put that the video by Dan O'Reilly in this segment because I find his story very compelling, and the journey that he has taken to wellness and being able to speak about this topic of being a burn victim, and how he interacted with the expert nurses. And I part of that is very interesting to me because it discusses his own path, and the whole concept of intuitiveness, and what we bring to the table in terms of decision making. Sometimes we're wrong, and you have to listen to other people because our intuitive nature might be based upon a fallacy. And in this particular case, what the nurses were doing was not encompassing both sides of the equation. So, at the end when he says, the nurses said you never took how I felt into consideration, that always kind of just jars me whenever I re-watch that video, because sometimes it's very compelling to have to look at the other side of the equation. So make sure that if you're in that kind of a situation in your business or your personal life, where somebody comes up to you and says counter to what you think, believe, and have always acted upon, that you give their side of the story some credence, because that's what their experiences were. And I find his dialogue on how wobbly our ethics are, that's always an eye opener to many people when they get a chance to view this video. That it's kind of is shaky, because we like to think that our ethics and our morals and our behaviors are without condition. And in fact, I think his studies, even though they might be high level, do show that sometimes our behavior is very much based upon the condition and the situation that we're in, and that could happen in the business world. So I like to put this in week 3 when you're trying to find your topics for your business issue, so that you can have that little bit of background and bring that into your discussion. Why did this company, who has a great name and a great reputation, do X that caused them possibly customers harm or great loss to the organization, or had an environmental concern, or whatever the case may be. And I think that video itself is a bit of an eye-opener. Okay, thanks for listening. We go into week 4, and hope anybody has any questions or concerns. Feel free to dialogue with me either through email or the open discussion board that's out there for general questions. Thanks. Bye.